They say betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from your own blood. I used to think that was just something bitter people said until the day I saw the beach photos. It started with a phone call at 10:12 p.m. on a rainy Thursday. "Mom, we need help. It's Milo. He's not breathing right." My daughter Kara's voice cracked through the static, frantic, urgent. I bolted upright from my recliner. My heart thudded against my chest like it was trying to warn me. "What happened? Did you call 911? We're at the ER now. They think it's respiratory failure. He needs to be transferred. I don't have enough for the ambulance ride or the first night ICU deposit. Can I use your card? Just until tomorrow when insurance clears." I didn't even hesitate. I gave her the numbers over the phone, my fingers trembling, my voice hoarse. "Of course, sweetie. Take whatever you need. It's Milo." Milo was my only grandson. 5 years old, with golden curls and the softest laugh in the world. I raised Kara on my own after her father passed away, and when Milo was born, it felt like I got a piece of joy back. There was no question I wouldn't do whatever it took to help him. The next morning, I waited by the phone for updates. Nothing. No call, no text. By noon, I tried calling Kara straight to voicemail. Same again at 3 p.m. and 7. I finally drove to their house at 9 p.m., heart in my throat, dreading what I might find. But their house was dark, empty. The neighbor came out when she saw my car. "They left early this morning," she said. "Had suitcases. Said they were heading to the airport." "Airport?" I blinked, thinking I must have misheard. "For a family emergency?" I asked. The woman shrugged. Looked pretty happy to me. The little one had on sunglasses and a beach hat. I remember the way my knees buckled then. The concrete felt like it cracked beneath me. I stumbled back to my car, begging for some kind of explanation that would make it all okay. When I got home, I opened Facebook. The first thing I saw was Kara's profile. A new post. A picture of her and her mother-in-law, gleaming smiles under a palm tree. Caption: "Finally got Emile her dream vacation. She deserves this so much." My mouth went dry. I scrolled further. More photos: Milo building a sandcastle, Kara sipping from a coconut, the mother-in-law in a spa robe. No mention of hospitals. No sign of emergencies. I checked my credit card account. $1,832. Hotel charges in Honolulu. Airfare. Spa packages. A seafood dinner bill that cost more than my rent. I couldn't breathe. I called her again. This time, she picked up. "Hi, Mom," she said, voice cheery, music and laughter in the background. "We're kinda in the middle of something right now. Can I call you back?" "Where's Milo?" I whispered. My hands were shaking. "Oh, he's right here. Say hi to Grandma, baby." In the background, I heard his little voice. "Hi, Grandma." Tears burned my eyes. "You said he was dying, Kara." She was silent for a beat too long. I didn't say that exactly. I just, you know how insurance is. I panicked. "No, you lied. You used your son's life as leverage and you used me." "Mom, calm down. It's not that serious. We needed this trip. For Emile's mental health. She's been so stressed." I hung up. I don't remember crying that night. I didn't even sleep. I just sat there, stunned. My hand still holding the phone, like if I stared long enough, it would all rewind and play out differently. But it didn't. Over the next few days, I tried to make sense of it. I tried to convince myself that maybe I'd misunderstood, that she would call and apologize, that there was some greater reason, something I wasn't seeing. But what came instead was worse. 3 days after the call, I received a voicemail from Kara. "Hey, Mom, I saw your post. That was really passive-aggressive. It's not like we asked for your last time. You're retired. You don't even use that money. And honestly, this is why I don't tell you stuff. You always overreact." Overreact? I wanted to scream. Instead, I deleted the voicemail and went back to silence. I didn't tell anyone. Not at first. "What do you say? That your daughter conned you with a fake hospital emergency to pay for a beach vacation for her husband's mother? What kind of mother admits that? But guilt has a funny way of growing mold if you don't air it out." The following week, I went to the bank to freeze my card. The young man behind the counter asked why I was closing it. I told him everything. He didn't judge. He just nodded slowly and said, "My aunt did something similar to my grandma." I'm sorry. Those words. I'm sorry. They cracked something open inside me. I wasn't alone. And maybe I wasn't crazy. I decided to call my sister-in-law, Helen. She'd always been the blunt one in the family. When I told her what Kara did, she went quiet for a long time. Then she asked one question. Are you going to let her get away with it? I didn't answer her then, but the question didn't leave me. The next week, I got a letter in the mail. A statement from the retirement account Kara had access to. I had forgotten she even had viewing rights. I had given it to her years ago just in case something happened. The account had 3 recent inquiries. I called the institution. They confirmed Kara had requested transfer information. She hadn't touched it yet, but she was looking. It wasn't just a one-time lie. She was preparing for more. I stared at the letter. And then I did something I never thought I would. I started writing. Not to Kara, but to a lawyer. Because the line had been crossed. And this time, there would be consequences. I didn't want to do it. I sat with that thought for days. What kind of mother sues her own child? What kind of grandmother brings lawyers into the family? But the truth kept circling me like a buzzard. This wasn't about just one credit card charge or a silly vacation. This was about a boundary being obliterated, and the person holding the shovel was my own daughter. The next time Kara called, I let it go to voicemail. Then, I listened. Her tone had changed. Mom, can you please pick up? I didn't mean to upset you. I just thought you always say you'd do anything for Milo. I thought you wouldn't mind. Wouldn't mind? My jaw clenched. She kept talking. I mean, it's not like we're rich. And honestly, Emile has helped us so much. She's practically raised Milo when I couldn't. I needed to give her something back, okay? The words twisted like a knife. When I couldn't. That was the justification. I didn't call her back. Instead, I called Helen again. I need a recommendation, I said. For a lawyer? She asked. I hesitated. Yeah. You sure about this? No, I admitted. But I'm tired of waiting for her to feel guilty. It's not coming. Helen exhaled deeply. Good. Then I'll text you my guy. 2 days later, I sat across from a thin, gray-haired man named Peter Langston. He had kind eyes, the kind that made you feel like you weren't crazy for being heartbroken and furious at the same time. Mrs. Rayner, he said after I told him everything. This qualifies as financial elder abuse. The words felt sterile, cold, legal. Elder abuse. I whispered. He nodded. She lied to you to access funds under false pretenses. If this were anyone but your daughter, we wouldn't even hesitate. But she's not just anyone. No, he said gently. She's worse. Because she knew exactly how to manipulate you. That night, I didn't sleep. Again, I lay in bed remembering the way Kara used to fall asleep on my chest as a baby. The way she held my hand when her father died. The way she cried when she found out she was pregnant. Where did that daughter go? What replaced her? And was it my fault? The guilt gnawed at me like termites in my bones. But every time I tried to forgive, I saw the number $1, 832.47, and the beach photo of her toasting wine with her mother-in-law. I gave Peter the green light. The legal letter went out that Friday. A formal demand to repay the charges or face civil proceedings. Kara didn't respond. Not for 3 days. Then my doorbell rang. I opened it and found her standing there, holding Milo in one hand and a scowl in the other. Really, Mom? Lawyers? Over this? I stared at her. She looked like a stranger in my doorway. You lied to me. So what? She snapped. Parents lie all the time. You used to tell me Santa was real. That's not the same thing, and you know it. I needed help. You had the money. And you could have asked for it honestly. But you didn't. You manipulated me using your own son's life. Milo looked up at me, confused. Grandma, are you mad? I knelt down and touched his cheek. No, sweetheart. I'm just very sad. Kara scoffed. God, you're so dramatic. Is this about the Emile thing? She helped pay for the flight. No, I said, standing up. It's about trust. And respect. And the fact that you've shown me neither. She crossed her arms. So what now? You're gonna sue me into poverty. I looked at her, really looked, and saw not the daughter I raised but a woman who saw love as leverage. No, I said. But I am protecting myself. That card is canceled. Access to my retirement account has been revoked. And I've updated my will. Her face changed then. It went pale. What do you mean? I mean, you're no longer my beneficiary. Not until you make this right. Completely. And not just with words. Kara's voice dropped. You're cutting me out? I'm setting a boundary. She laughed bitterly. You'll die alone. You know that, right? Maybe, I said quietly. But I'd rather die alone than live being used. She stared at me for a long moment, then turned to Milo. Say goodbye to Grandma. He hesitated. I don't want to. But she pulled him away. And just like that, she left. I didn't hear from her for over a month. In that time, I started volunteering at the local library again. I went to bingo night with Helen. I even baked cookies for the neighborhood kids. Life, as strange as it sounds, opened up. But the ache didn't go away. It pulsed, slow and steady, in my chest. I missed Milo. I missed my daughter, too. Not the woman she was now, but the girl she used to be. Then, one evening, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. From Kara. Mom, I'm not good at apologizing. I didn't grow up with a model for that. Maybe that's my excuse. Or maybe I'm just scared. I hurt you. I lied. And the truth is I didn't even need to. I just didn't want to face your judgment. I didn't want to admit that I wanted something selfish. Emile has been helping a lot, it's true. But I should have never made you the scapegoat. I used Milo. I weaponized your love. I don't know if I can fix this. I don't know if you'll ever trust me again. But I've transferred the money back to your account. Every penny. I'm sorry. I'll respect whatever boundary you choose. Love. Kara. I sat there for a long time, staring at that piece of paper. I checked my bank account. The money was there. Clean. Whole. But what struck me more was the letter. There was no sarcasm. No manipulation. Just words. Plain and broken. Was it enough? I didn't know. But the next morning, I mailed her a letter of my own. Kara, thank you. That's all I can say right now. I love you. I always have. But love doesn't mean enabling someone. I'll be at the park Saturday afternoon. If you and Milo want to come, I'll be there. Just talk. No expectations. Mom. Whether she would come or Noti didn't know. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a sliver of something rise in me. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe hope. Saturday arrived, overcast and strangely quiet. I dressed simply just a beige cardigan and my soft walking shoes. I packed a few cookies in a Tupperware container. Not because I thought Milo would come, but because I wanted to believe he might. The park was nearly empty when I got there, except for a couple walking a Labrador and a boy on a skateboard. I sat on a wooden bench under the oak tree and waited, heart trembling like the leaves in the breeze. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. I began to think I'd be going home alone. Then I heard it. Little feet running across the grass. A laugh I knew like the back of my hand. Grandma. I looked up and there was Milo, racing toward me, arms outstretched. I stood to catch him, and he threw himself into my arms like he'd never left. You came? I whispered into his hair. He nodded. Mom said you brought cookies. I laughed, tears stinging my eyes. Of course she did. When I looked up, Kara was standing a few feet away, her arms crossed tightly, uncertainty etched in every line of her body. Hi, she said softly. Hi, I replied. She sat down on the bench beside me while Milo ran off to the sandbox. For a while, neither of us spoke. We just watched him, letting the silence settle between us like dust. I didn't think you'd write back, she said finally. I wasn't going to, I admitted. But I missed him. I missed you too. Even if I don't recognize you right now. Kara swallowed. I don't recognize me either. I glanced at her sideways. What happened, Kara? When did it become okay to hurt someone who loves you? She looked down at her hands. I think it's been a slow slide. You always saved me when things got hard. And at some point, I started assuming you always would. I didn't even think about how it was affecting you. I nodded slowly. That's what scares me the most. That you didn't even think. I'm sorry. The words sat heavy in the air, fragile and unsure. Words aren't a bridge, Kara. They're just the wood. It's what you do with them that builds anything. She blinked hard and gave a small nod. I know. That's why I've started therapy. I turned to her, surprised. You have? Yeah, she said. Online. Twice a week. I've been trying to unpack the way I've depended on you. The way I let resentment shape how I treat you. I don't want to be that person. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to cling to my anger to stay safely wrapped in the armor I'd built. But the truth was I wanted to believe her. Because I loved her. And because Milo deserved a family that wasn't torn apart by lies and pride. I'm proud of you, I said finally. She blinked at me. Even now, I looked over at Milo, building a crooked tower of sand. Especially now. Kara wiped her eyes. Do you think we can fix it? I sighed. I think we can try. But we need boundaries. Real ones. And they have to be respected. She nodded. Agreed. We sat in silence again, this time more peaceful. Then she spoke quietly. Do you want to come to Milo's school play next Friday? He's playing a sunflower. I smiled. I wouldn't miss it. The next few weeks weren't perfect, Healing isn't a straight line. It zigzags, stumbles, falls. There were still awkward moments, still silences that spoke volumes. But Kara was trying. She called more often without asking for anything. She invited me to lunch. She even brought me flowers once, sheepishly handing them over like a child giving a gift to the teacher she wronged. Most importantly, she paid me back, in small installments at first, and then in full. But it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about effort, about rebuilding what she broke. One Sunday afternoon, I got a knock on the door. It was Kara and Milo with a hand-painted envelope that said, "For Grandma." Inside was a homemade card. It had a crayon drawing of a stick figure me and Milo holding hands under a bright yellow sun, and scrawled in uneven, 5-year-old handwriting. "I love you, Grandma. Mom says we fixing things." I think we almost fixed. I cried. Because maybe we were. Maybe this was how you heal from betrayal, not by pretending it didn't happen, but by deciding it won't define what comes next. By being brave enough to try again. And loving someone enough to let them try. Healing, I learned, isn't always a grand gesture. It's not a teary reunion at the airport, or a sudden, magical mending of what was shattered. Sometimes it's as simple as showing up. And Kara did start showing up. She picked me up for Milo's school play, brought me tea when I had the flu, even stayed an extra hour after Sunday dinner just to sit beside me, not saying much, but not rushing out the door either. We didn't talk much about the vacation. The betrayal. It lingered between us, like smoke after a fire. But the edges of it softened each time she chose presence over performance. One Friday morning, I was folding laundry when the doorbell rang. Kara stood there, holding a box. "I found something in storage," she said. "Thought you might want it back." I opened the box. Inside were photo albums, our photo albums. The ones I'd thought she'd thrown out after she moved in with Brian. Kara sat at the kitchen table, watching as I flipped through them. There was one from her 4th birthday party, with a half-tilted cake and pink balloons taped to our apartment wall. Another of her holding a drawing stick, figures of me, her, and a cat we never owned. "You used to write little captions," she said softly, peeking over my shoulder. Kara's first lost tooth. She didn't cry, she laughed. I forgot that. I closed the album. "Kara," I said, "do you remember the day you asked me if I ever regretted having you?" She blinked, startled. "I think so. I was maybe 12. You asked me if I wished I'd lived my own life. Traveled. Married again." She looked down. "And you said, I got the best life. I got you." "I meant that." Kara nodded slowly. "I believed you. I don't know when I stopped feeling like I was worth that kind of love." I reached for her hand. "That wasn't on you to question. That was on me to show you. Maybe I didn't do that well enough. Maybe we both failed each other in different ways." She looked at me, eyes wet. "You did more than enough, Mom. You raised me alone. You gave up everything for me. And all I ever wanted in return was honesty," I said quietly. She nodded. "I know. I'm still working on that." 2 weeks later, we took a day trip to the countryside. Nothing fancy. Just the 3 of us, Kara, Milo, and me. We drove out to a pumpkin patch, something we hadn't done in years. Milo ran ahead, arms out like airplane wings, giggling at every crooked pumpkin he found. Kara stayed by my side. "Do you remember the last time we did this?" I asked. "I was 16, she said. "And you made me take a picture next to the biggest pumpkin like it was my prom date." I laughed. "You were furious." I was so embarrassed. "But now," she smiled, "I kind of miss those days." We sat together on a hay bale as the sun dipped low behind the trees, casting golden light across the field. Kara turned to me. "Can I ask something hard?" "Always." "If I hadn't paid you back, if I hadn't apologized, would you have cut me out forever?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "No, but I would have kept myself guarded. I would have built a version of love that protected me from you." She nodded slowly. "That makes sense. People think forgiveness is a door you fling wide open again. But sometimes it's a window you crack just enough to let the air in." She was quiet for a long time, then said, "I'm glad you cracked it. I missed you." I reached for her hand again. And this time, she didn't let go. The holiday season came faster than expected. In early December, Kara invited me to her house for Christmas Eve dinner. I hesitated at first, still unsure if I was ready to sit across from her husband, Brian, or especially his mother, the woman who unknowingly reaped the benefits of my broken trust. But something in Kara's voice told me she needed this. Not for tradition, but for healing. So I went. The house was clean and warmly lit. Milo had made paper snowflakes and taped them to every window. A tree stood in the corner, crooked and overly tinseled. It was perfect. Brian greeted me politely, distant but respectful. And then she walked in. The mother-in-law, Susan. She smiled at me. "It's been a long time, Mrs. Rayner." "It has," I replied evenly. She didn't know. That much was obvious. I saw it in her awkward glance, the unsure way she extended a plate of cookies. "They're store-bought," she said. "Kara says you bake better than anyone." That small offering. That olive branch. I took one. "Thank you." She exhaled, maybe relieved. Dinner was peaceful. Not perfect but full of effort. Kara kept the conversation flowing, making sure I didn't feel left out. Milo sat beside me and whispered updates about his kindergarten life, including the big news that he liked a girl named Tessa. After dessert, Kara pulled me aside. "I didn't tell her," she said, "about what happened. I figured that was your call." "Thank you." She hesitated, then added, "But I did tell Brian, and I told him it would never happen again." I looked at her, really looked, and realized something important. She wasn't that girl anymore, the one who reached into my wallet with excuses and justifications. She was becoming a woman who could carry the weight of her own decisions. New Year's came, then spring, then Milo's 6th birthday. That morning, Kara showed up with a gift box. "For you," she said, handing it over. I opened it carefully. Inside was a small framed photograph. It was me, Kara, and Milo taken at the pumpkin patch. The sun in our eyes, our arms around each other. And across the bottom, written in simple cursive, "Thank you for loving me through the hard parts." I looked up. Kara's eyes glistened. "Happy birthday to Milo," I whispered. "And thank you, Mom," she said. This time, there was nothing left to say. No more apologies. No more tests. Just the sound of healing settling into its rightful place. Not loud. Not perfect. But real. Grief doesn't always come from death. Sometimes, it comes from the living their choices, their silences, the realization that the person you love most can also be the one who hurt you the deepest. But if grief is a storm, then growth is the calm that comes after. And for the first time in years, I started to feel that quiet unfolding in my life again. It happened in small ways. Kara called me on a Tuesday just to tell me about a book she was reading. She didn't ask for money. She didn't even mention Milo. She just wanted to talk. Another day, I caught myself humming while watering the plants on my porch. I hadn't done that since before the betrayal. Then one afternoon, I went to the community center to teach a watercolor class for seniors. We painted tulips and clouds and uneven barns, and somewhere in the laughter and gentle teasing, I remembered I was more than just a mother. I was still a woman. Still whole. Still here. In early May, Kara asked me to join them on a weekend camping trip. I raised an eyebrow. "You do know I don't sleep in tents." She laughed. "I rented a cabin, Mom. With plumbing." "Ah, now you're speaking my language." We went togatherm, Kara, Milo, and even Brian. I didn't expect to enjoy it. But as the first night settled in and Milo insisted I tell him a bedtime story about when Mom was little and did something super embarrassing, I found myself smiling more than I had in years. Kara joined in with her own version of the story about the time she tried to make pancakes for my birthday at age 10 and nearly burned down the kitchen. "You didn't even get mad," she said, resting her head on the cabin wall. "You just laughed and ordered takeout." "You were trying," I said. That mattered more. There was silence for a moment. Then Kara said, "I hope I'm doing better now." "You are." And I meant it. Summer passed with ease. We spent Saturdays at the park. Milo learned to ride a bike, and I was the one he called when he skinned his knee. Kara started working part-time at a local community center, running an arts program for kids. "I want to give back," she said. "I want to earn what I took for granted." One evening, we sat on the porch together, the air thick with the hum of cicadas. "I read somewhere that the brain doesn't finish developing until we're 25, Kara said, "which means I spent a lot of years making decisions without fully understanding their weight." I chuckled. If only we could blame it all on brain science. She looked down. I was selfish and scared, and I thought love meant never being told no. But you saying no, it saved me. I was quiet for a long time. Then I said, "You didn't just hurt me. You scared me. You made me question whether I failed as a mother." "You didn't," she said firmly. "I made those choices. You gave me everything, and I used it like a weapon. That was on me. But you never stopped loving me. That's what changed me. A tear slipped down my cheek. I let it fall. Because that was the truth. I never stopped loving her. Even when it hurt. Even when I wanted to. One afternoon in early autumn, Kara brought over a folder. I need you to see this, she said, voice soft. Inside were documents, bank statements, notarized letters, a living will. I'm naming you as Milo's legal guardian, in case anything ever happens to me or Brian. I blinked. Kara, this is... I know, she interrupted. It's not a repayment. It's not a gesture. It's just what's right. You're the most stable, loyal person I've ever known. And I want Milo raised by someone who knows how to love without conditions but also with accountability. I held the folder close to my chest. Then I pulled her into a hug. She was taller now than I remembered, her arms stronger, her scent differentless perfume, more earth. But in that moment, she felt like my little girl again. The one who used to climb into bed with me during thunderstorms and whisper, "I'm not scared if you're here." I whispered now. I'm not scared anymore either. The year ended quietly. On New Year's Eve, Kara and Milo came over with board games and hot cocoa. We watched the countdown on TV, and at midnight, we all hugged. Even Brian pulled me into a polite, warm embrace. He had softened too, not in words, but in actions, helping me change a flat tire one rainy afternoon, bringing in my groceries when I was under the weather. Sometimes redemption isn't loud. Sometimes it's just consistent. Milo fell asleep on the couch with chocolate on his cheeks and a blanket wrapped around his shoulders. Kara gently lifted him into her arms. Before she left, she paused at the door. "Mom," she said, "thank you for not giving up on me." I smiled. "Thank you for making sure I didn't have to." Months later, I stood in front of my garden roses blooming early that spring. Milo was helping me weed while Kara painted on a nearby easel. She had taken up art again. Said it helped her think. As I looked around at my daughter, my grandson, my quiet little world, I realized something. Forgiveness hadn't erased the pain, but it had transformed it. It had taken something broken and grown something blooming from it. It didn't happen in a moment. It happened slowly, like trust returning, like wounds closing, like love earned back, inch by inch. Kara looked up at me from her canvas. "Hey, Mom," she said, "you think you'd ever consider writing your story? You've got so much in you. People would listen." I thought about that. About the shame, the anger, the long nights of wondering where I went wrong. But I also thought about the resilience, the rebuilding, the quiet bravery of choosing to love anyway. And I nodded. Maybe I will. Because maybe someone out there is where I once was, sitting in the aftermath of betrayal, unsure if they should ever open that door again. And maybe my story would help them crack a window. Even just a little.